Let's move on to the notion of function. So notion of function, which is nothing but one but a function instruction, so could only be executed if we call them or if we ask R to be able to use it. So to execute this sequence of this instruction block, that when we ask for it, and then the functions can have input data, whatever. So we can put inside the parameter portion and then the function returns data. So as a result, so there's the word used to be able to use a function on R on the reserved word. So we're going to call my function action is going to affect, so we're going to use the same assignment symbol. We've been using it forever in parentheses. So for me, we're not going to put arguments, but we're going to use a function without arguments. So we're going to put the instructions, another function between Apollo. So we're just going to ask for another function when we're going to call it. So without food, of course, to display the hello world value, we're going to put that in the middle of the equation. Hello world, we're going to ask it to show hello world. We're going to run our function. We're going to select and run. We click run. That's when you do it. So there you have it. So you're going to explain the prevention if we're going to increase at the level of. From the environment, you will see that our function has indeed been. You'll see a new function created that will appear. This is our function, including all the actions we've done, named my function. But we can now call it so that we can call it. Isn't that calling our function? So after having it, we're just going to put it in. Put arguments into it. For example, my function, 8 functions. So you have to be sure that it's the same name that we assigned earlier so that it can be recognized. So if we put an inexact name, my function in parent, we're not going to put arguments more than the other function from the start was defined without no arguments. So we're going to just execute. So select this and then run in string. We can show you hello world since we asked our function to display a certain number. In order to just display hello world, when we call it normally, you have to know that when we declare a function, we can be type, a number of arguments in an argument that can be data and information that needs to be passed to the function in such a way that it gives the output a number of other pieces of information, including a title and output. We will construct another function so we can assign it the same number, and when we assign the same number, naturally it's going to erase, so it's going to be returned in the new value that we'll have set to it when we've executed our function. So here we always call it my function, so it's going to give him the first name, so we'll provide the first and last name without a sum name and assign a fixed name instead of any random name. Then, a sequence of names will be displayed, noting the first name and last name. So what are we going to do? So we're going to assign to our my function, we're going to assign it. What value are we going to make? We're going to assign it in assignment, so we're going to assign what works. We're going to put an argument this time, so a parenthesis we're going to call it. What? No, not like that. This is the argument we'll have, compared to now, that we're going to display a sequence of first names in the continent operation. So I have the pest function, so be able to concatenate the first name and the last name to have. Maybe that's the last name, so we're going to call F names. Concatenate F, noun, comma, and then maybe another name. So we're going to concatenate the F name and then Q, so for example. So if we call my function there, so if we're going to execute the statements first, those statements have to be between them. Braces, of course, after doing this, then we have to open. We open the collet, so we open. Then we go to the line, and then we enter the instructions, so training. So we're going to select and execute. So by clicking on run, so it was well executed to be seen in the console, and then if we go into the environment, we will see that other functions take as parameters. F, no, it's the new function F, my function that overwrote the old one. So it's using the parameter, so we're going to call my function. We're going to retain, for example, what parameter, and we're going to take, for example, the Peter parameters. So when we're between parameters, he's going to contact Peter and Twitch, so for the ML, the number of families. So when you call it, what does it display? Peter Tio. So when we enter Peter as parameters, so we can show as parameters in default of and so on, we can put, for example, way so, for example. So when we run there you have it. You'll definitely see lose the soul. Also putting any parameter, so you put in blah blah there, so putting anything there, so you see it's going to return anything to us. And then the other argument, which has nothing but you, so you see how can we create a function, and how can we call it longer.